Okay, so we're live. Good evening. Today is Tuesday, August 29th, 2023. This is a meeting of the Pioneer Valley Regional School District School Committee. We're holding a special meeting via Google Meet. And I'm going to call the meeting to order. It's 6:03, and we'll have a roll call attendance. So Jennifer?
Jennifer Coffin here.
Sylvia?
Sylvia Cummings here.
Michelle?
Michelle Druso here.
Gretchen?
Gretchen Kelton here.
And Karen?
Karen O'Neill here.
Stephen?
Stephen Martin here.
Great. And Raina Dastu here.
Melissa Gary present too.
So, yeah, thank you, Melissa. I knew I was missing somebody. All right. So great. And let's see, our first order of business. Sorry, I have to pull up my agenda. Is citizens' comments. Do we have any citizens who would like to make a statement? I don't see any. So report, superintendent's report.
Brief tonight. I wanted to make the committee aware that the district received a $15,000 grant to work on approaches to address student cell phone use. This is a pilot from the state. We received the maximum amount awarded to a school district of our size. Kate Mesmer, Director of Teaching and Learning, wrote this grant. And as I've said before, she is a fine writer. So I have instructed Matt Sullivan to press pause on any discussion about this until we get school up and running. And then we'll begin conversations about what this might look like and gather all kinds of groups into the process of how we use this money. So, but I did want to make you aware of this grant.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions or discussion? It's mostly informational. So moving on to business. Our bleachers for the Northfield's 350th parade. Michelle?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I put my hand up like this.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Will they be reporting back to the school committee, Patricia, on this grant, or as a result? Yes, because we need to involve the school committee in setting policy around how cell phones are used in school. Okay, thank you. You're welcome.
Great. All right, so moving on to the bleachers for the Northfield's 350th.
Okay, would you like me to bring the memo up on the screen, or are you familiar enough with it? Okay.
I have it in front of me.
Okay. I'm going to open it on my screen. So the town approached us a year ago asking if the district might lend our 4 field bleachers to the town so that they could position them for better viewing for spectators on September 30th. We've reached out to our attorney who says as long as the insurance folks are good with this, then they don't have any concerns. Our insurance company is okay with it as long as we, as long as the town provides a certificate of insurance listing the district as an additional insured. The town needs to make sure the bleachers are set up correctly and that they're level, and the town needs to transport the bleachers to and from the school district. So we would be respectfully requesting that school committee consider approving the motion as written on the memo.
Great. Are there any questions? Yeah, Michelle?
I was going to move the motion. Sorry. I can't find my hand here.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I'll second the motion.
I'll move to lend the district's field bleachers to the Northfield
350th committee with the town's agreement to adhere to the listed provisions.
And Sylvia seconded that?
I'll second
Oh,
that.
provisions, yeah. I'm
Perfect.
sorry.
Any further discussion? All right, so we'll start the voting. Jennifer,
Jennifer Coffin, yes.
Sylvia,
Sylvia Cummings, yes.
okay, Melissa,
Melissa Gary, yes.
Michelle,
Michelle Druso, yes.
Gretchen,
Gretchen Calton, yes.
Karen,
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Stephen,
Stephen Martin, yes.
and Raina Dasty, yes. Great. So that passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Yeah. Our next order of business is disposal of surplus property, athletic equipment from the auxiliary gym.
Yep. So we're looking at the auxiliary gymnasium and trying to make it into a better space that can be better utilized for instruction, teaching, and learning. And among the many things we've accomplished over the summer, we hired a great new physical education teacher, Nick Adams, who has an extensive background in strength and conditioning. And so we've started to look at what we have in the auxiliary gymnasium and how that fits with using the space, as a place to have class, a place to get students moving, and what would be the most educationally and instructionally appropriate equipment. So we looked at what we have, and there's quite a lot of machinery that sits and takes up space, prevents movement. Some of it's in disrepair, dangerous. And some of it just doesn't fit with kind of modern approach to exercise. And so we want to, this is part of a big initiative to get the auxiliary gym from a place that sometimes seems like it's kind of collecting dust and is used more of a space for storage rather than an active space for learning and exercise. So it's part of that process, kind of a revisioning, reimagining of that space and making it a really great space for both our students and I think probably ultimately our staff and community. And this is step one in that process. Any questions?
I have
ahead,
a
Karen.
question. Yes. First of all, I really support this, but I do have a number of questions. Is that space currently in use at all?
Yeah, the space is used at much below capacity from what I've witnessed. Yeah, I don't think it gets as much use. I think almost immediately it's going to go through the roof now that we have a member of our teaching faculty who knows really how to use this space in a beneficial way for our students. But yeah.
Okay. I think you addressed this. Eventually or ultimately, you hope that the public will be able to use it as they have in the past, the way past at least. Yeah. Is that true?
Yeah.
Jordan, may I answer that one?
Of course, Patricia. Yeah.
Karen, Northfield residents have been using the gym maybe one night a week or so in the winter. And I have to say, I was mortified when I went down and took a good look at the Ox Gym and saw its deplorable condition. I was mortified that not only were our students in that space, but also that town members were interacting in any way with a school district space that was as poorly organized as not, it doesn't speak to the kind of standards we have for ourselves. So the public has been coming in, which I would like to say, hey, that's great, but I'm just embarrassed that our public has seen that space in its current condition.
Okay, so that leads to my question. As is, would you say there are some liability issues?
Jordan, you go ahead, sorry.
Yeah. I think that's correct because, and I know you'll, from your science background, appreciate this. In the weight room, we have the equivalent of invasive species, we have people who brought home gym equipment into the space over the years, I think, and home gym equipment is for your home, right? It can't handle the capacity of many people working out. Things break and then they become extremely dangerous because people are doing things, with weights and then not only their body weight, the weights crash on them or something. So we're cleaning all that up. Long story short, we're getting rid of the invasives. We're going back to only having good equipment that's that we are confident can be used for the appropriate purposes of strength and conditioning, for our students and the larger community. So we're really lucky to have someone as knowledgeable as Nick on our team to help us through this process. But yeah, certainly we're getting rid of those lines. And Nick found he has a great eye for it, so he found stuff that might not always be noticeable if you didn't really know the equipment. Some of the machines that I feel we're still using. So yep, we're gonna get rid of that.
Okay, so when do you have a timeline for when it will be usable again?
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to fast track this, so maybe by the middle of the fall. I'm not saying no one can use it into the middle of the fall, but by the middle of the fall, what we're hoping is it starts to be a space that we're actually proud of and represents where, kind of the trajectory of the district, that we're on an upward trajectory. We want it to be a space that right, to your point, attracts the community in, people want to use and can accomplish a lot and are proud of. So that's kind of our goal.
Okay, thank you for your answers.
You're welcome.
Okay. Sylvia?
I actually have a couple of questions as well. This is a really nice list. I love lists. So having the list with the machine and listing next to it, what's the status is really helpful. For me, what's left for equipment after all of this? And is there a plan to acquire more equipment?
Yeah, so certainly there's going to be a lot less equipment, and that in and of itself accomplishes one goal of creating more space when using it for a teaching space. So I think that our goal in general, in terms of long-term planning, is to reduce total amount of equipment on the floor, right? More space and intelligently curated equipment that is durable, very safe, and will lead to positive outcomes, so that our students and our community enjoy exercise because it's effective, right? And it's a nice, clean, welcoming space. So a lot less equipment will be remaining, and it'll be basically the stuff that's in the best condition and can help us accomplish the goals of aligning what we have with kind of modern exercise science, really.
Sure. So is there a plan to replace some of this equipment, or just get rid of this equipment and then just sort of use what's there and just sort of use what's there, not replace anything? Just so I understand. Okay. So some of this equipment here could still legitimately be used. It's just large. Just so I understand.
Sylvia,
Sure.
some of it's actually broken.
Okay.
And most of it was acquired 15 to 20 years ago by the district from a place that was closing down.
So none of it
Claire's
can be
nodding her head.
salvaged.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, you've gone through all of the equipment and salvaged what you can, and this is what, in your opinion, should just be discarded.
Exactly. And the approach, and this is, I'm stepping out of my an area that I know a lot about, but the way Nick Adams, our new strength and conditioning person, PE teacher, has presented it is, instead of having these Nautilus type machines that are quite limited in the muscles worked and the ways they can be used, we want to have more freestanding equipment or attached to the wall equipment. Okay. Each piece can be used to exercise multiple groups, and every muscle group can be exercised on multiple pieces of equipment. So the overall look is much cleaner and very different from and I say Nautilus, I don't know that, but that kind of bulky machinery.
Equipment. Sure. Okay. All right. That's a better explanation. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. Thank you.
Any further questions? All right, so would someone, oh, yes, Karen?
Yeah. I move that we approve disposal of the surplus property from the auxiliary gym, either through sale as scrap metal or disposal through a waste management service.
I'll second that.
Thanks, Jennifer. All right, and so any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, let's get voting. Jennifer?
Oh my gosh. I'm like, why is she saying my name? I'm so sorry.
That's
Yes,
okay.
Jennifer Kaufman, yes.
Sounds good. Sylvia?
Sylvia Cummings, yes.
Melissa?
Melissa Gary, yes.
Michelle?
Michelle Jeruso, yes.
Gretchen?
Gretchen Kelton, yes.
Karen?
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Stephen?
Stephen Martin, yes.
And Raina Dastu, yes. So that passes unanimously. And thank you for that hard work. That's it's great to clean house and get some updated stuff. So
Thank you.
good. All right. So moving on, Vernon tuition agreement.
Yep. So we've been discussing this for quite some time, right? We've had an established relationship with Vernon for many years, but never established a formal written agreement. And our legal counsel encouraged us to do so for a multitude of reasons, but some of the biggest are just mitigating our financial exposure and formalizing our rights as the receiving district, and formalizing the overall relationship with Vernon. And so we had discussed this at subcommittee, and ultimately the recommendations there was to get legal review of the additional legal review of the agreement, get additional feedback from Vernon. And so we've done that. Our legal counsel and Vernon support the Vernon tuition agreement in its current state, and support the direction of having a formalized agreement to both formalize relationship, but also protect our financial interests and minimize our financial exposure. Are there any questions about the agreement?
Go ahead, Michelle.
Sorry about that. I was just wondering why didn't we put the amount in the Warwick agreement? I mean, I see all the verbiage, the average Vermont Department of Education annual tuition, and then it says if it increases, but I thought we said we were going to put them, Vernon and Warwick, the same. We were going to put the dollar amount in there.
So my thought process was that, I mean, the Warwick agreement has the rate set for 3 years, whereas with the Vernon agreement, the school committee ultimately sets the rate based on what's released by Vermont. And in this circumstance, I guess, we'd already voted the rate, but so I guess that's the uniqueness between the two agreements and why we crafted them a little bit differently.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Yes, you are welcome.
Karen, good. Oh, you're on mute, Karen.
That's better. I'm just curious if someone can provide me with a potential example of where we would not be able to provide the special education needs for a student from Vernon.
Jordan, should I take that?
Sure.
So if a student has profound developmental delays, and they need both a nurse and a type of program that's intensive that we would have to build in the district, that would be a case in which we are not equipped to meet the needs of the student.
Mm. I'm fairly certain we've done that in the past for our own students. I can think of some students who were not mainstreamed at all and were in the building. So I know it's a matter of how much Vernon can do versus how much capacity we have internally to help them do that. And I'm sure there would have to be lots of back and forth about a question like that. I was just curious if there was anything specific.
There was, I have been involved, and I obviously can't give details, but I've already been involved in a discussion about a Vernon student for whom we may or may not be able to provide the necessary services. And of course, we would welcome every Vernon student here, and we want to be clear about what our capacities are.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right. So seeing none, I'll entertain a motion regarding the Vernon tuition agreement.
I'll do it.
Okay, go ahead, Karen.
Say, I'll do it. No, that's okay, Karen. Go.
No, okay. I move that the school committee approve the Vernon tuition agreement as presented.
I'll second that.
Great, thanks, Michelle. All right, and any further discussion? All right, so we'll go ahead with the voting. Jennifer?
Jennifer Coffin, yes.
Sylvia?
Sylvia Cummings, yes.
Melissa?
Melissa Gary, yes.
Michelle?
Michelle Drew, so yes.
Gretchen?
Gretchen Kelton, yes.
Great. Karen?
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Stephen?
Stephen Martin, yes.
And Raina Dastu, yes. So that passes unanimously as well. Great. So moving on to the financial items, budget transfers for the 23-24 school meal prices.
Wonderful, thank you. So I think we discussed these at the last meeting, but we're unable to vote. So if there aren't questions, maybe it makes sense to vote the budget transfer. Certainly, if anyone does have questions, happy to answer those. Then maybe we can move on to voting the FY23 budget transfers. The amount was $253,472.26. I didn't make the motion on the memo, so I want to mention that amount. Although it's on the spreadsheet.
Yeah, it is there.
Do you want to go ahead and make that motion, Karen? Or-
Yes, I move that we approve the budget transfer total of the amount $253,472.26.
Great. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Great.
Beat ya.
Yeah, thanks, Jennifer. All right. Any further questions or discussion? All right. So let's start the voting. Jennifer?
Jennifer Coffin, yes.
Great. Sylvia?
Sylvia Cummings, yes.
Melissa?
Melissa Gary, yes.
Michelle?
Michelle Drew, so yes.
Gretchen?
Gretchen Kelton, yes.
Karen,
Karen O'Neill, yes. Whoops.
Stephen,
Stephen Martin, yes.
and Rena Dasty, yes. So that passes unanimously. Great.
Good.
And
So
Jordan, do you want to?
Yep, FY24 as well, a few budget transfers. And now this, since the August 17th meeting, I did add a couple. And that, as I put in the memo, I'm trying to simplify the school supply process. And I think we had talked about this potentially prior to the end of the FY23 fiscal year, but we're trying to simplify overall the school supply purchasing process. And one thing is that the elementaries, especially, supplies are broken down in the budget in student supplies, math, ELA, many different categories, which, especially at the elementary level, can be hard to parse out. And we're causing stress and anxiety, I think, both for the educators, trying to think of, okay, I've got $45 of science and I have $55 of math, rather than thinking, well, I have this much, or even the building has this much to spend on student supplies. Let's allocate that money as best as possible. So I wanted to transfer all of the many broken out categories into single student supply lines to hopefully ensure that it's a more efficient process, but also we don't have excess supplies, right? Like we don't have excess money in those supply lines because people couldn't think of a math supply, right? We want our students to have great supplies and be appropriately provided for. So that's one thing I added since the last meeting. But the overall amount of transfers now is $49,885. Is there any questions?
Go ahead, Karen.
I guess it's just a management question. There are now not different separate lines for each of the quote departments like science, math, literature, so who manages whether one entity is spending appropriately or overspending or whatever into somebody else's?
Yeah, great question. So at high school, we're maintaining those categories because to your point, at high school, it could become like a zero-sum game where science, whereas at the elementary level, it's the same person, right? The person may teach science, math, ELA, and social sciences, a single teacher. And for that teacher to, break that up, can become arbitrary, right? Because it's like, well, I use some of that paper for all those classes, or I use some. So, what was happening was it was becoming a very inefficient, very long process. And sometimes not all the supply money was getting spent because general student supplies get spent, but these other areas don't. So I want to make sure we're provisioning for our students in a way that also is humane for the teachers and the administrative assistants, for that matter, to make sure that, whereas at the high school, to your point, we need departments, right? Because there isn't a lot of crossover. What an English teacher might get for supplies, they teach English. So there's an English supply line, whereas the science teachers, they have their own area. I hope
I understand that approach and I hope it works. I just, from years on this school committee, I've seen a lot of science supplies not used at all. And, I guess in the back of my mind, I thought that certain people ordered supplies to their strength area, perhaps to the neglect of other areas. And I don't see that getting any better under this kind of system. So it was a way to keep an eye on whether those things were being done. And maybe it's not my job, but I did have a concern.
Sure. That's reasonable. I think two good things we have, or two, well, one thing, right? We have a director of teaching and learning who's helping us curate these supplies in a better way. I've seen Kate's work, and she's really helping people find good stuff from her vast experience. And I think sometimes the thing with what might have got categorized, it's not necessarily scientific, right? What gets categorized in what category, especially at the elementary level with one person teaching many things. At the high school, I think it serves a purpose and adds to the process. At the elementary, from the feedback I received from staff and administrative assistants, was that it was making the process take longer and be more stressful. So we wanted to try to alleviate that.
Thank you.
Of course.
Any other questions? So this is a separate vote for budget transfer. Is that correct, Jordan?
Yep, this is for FY24 in the amount of $49,885.
Okay. Would someone like?
Wait
Go ahead.
a minute. I have a question. It says 99,770 at the very bottom.
Yep, that was just a typographical error. Unfortunately,
Okay.
that an additional page was added that wasn't necessary. That's my fault. So, apologies.
Okay. I can move the budget transfers for FY24 of $49,885.
Great.
I'll second that.
Thanks, Melissa. All right. Any further discussion? Yep, let's go ahead and start the voting. Jennifer?
Jennifer Coffin, yes.
Great. Sylvia?
Sylvia Cummings, yes.
Great. Melissa?
Melissa Gary, yes.
Michelle?
Michelle DeRusso, yes.
Gretchen?
Gretchen Kelton, yes.
Karen?
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Great. Stephen?
Stephen Martin, yes.
And Raina Dasta, yes. All right, and that passes unanimously. Thank you. All right. So moving on to the school lunch prices.
Yep. So again, I believe we discussed these in the last meeting as well. Happy if people have additional questions at this meeting, happy to answer those. Okay.
All right. Michelle, do you have a question, or you just?
Nope, I
Nope.
don't.
Okay. All right. So would someone like to make a motion?
Okay, I move that we approve the 2024 food service prices as presented.
Great. Thank you, Karen. Do I have a second?
Second.
Great. Thanks, Michelle. All right. Any further discussion? All right. So we'll go ahead. Jennifer?
Jennifer Coffin, yes.
Sylvia?
Sylvia Cummings, yes.
Melissa?
Melissa Gary, yes.
Michelle?
Michelle DeRusso, yes.
Gretchen?
Gretchen Kelton, yes.
Karen?
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Stephen?
Stephen Martin, yes.
And Raina Dastu, yes. So that passes unanimously. All right, and moving on to the handbooks. Student handbook changes.
Thank you. And my apologies that I was not able to get this out to you in advance. The student handbooks sections of the student handbooks that relate to student discipline and conduct need to be approved by the school committee. A year ago, new law went into effect that required changes to due process for students in relation to suspensions. We have, so that was after last year's handbook was published. We have about 4 pages of language from our attorneys. It's the same language that's being used all across the state. I am seeking permission to take the updated legal guidance from our attorneys, which is in line with the new language, the new law that went into effect on November 8th, and place that into our student handbooks so that the outdated language is no longer there. The major change with this law is that before a student may be suspended, the principal or other hearing officer needs to be able to document that the school has attempted alternative remedies to keep the student in school. It makes it more difficult to suspend students, which is a good thing. And many districts across the state are letting the department know that sometimes it's a little bit too hard to suspend a student. We want to keep our kids in school. So this does not relate to school committee policy. This is straight up a change in handbook language to meet the requirements of a new law. And I can pull up the draft language on the screen if that would be helpful.
I would like to see it only so I can see what I'm voting on.
Yeah, yep. And apologies can you see it?
No.
I'm gonna make it, you can't see it?
I can't see it. I'm on
No.
my cell phone because I don't have a Chromebook yet.
Can no one see it?
Yeah.
Can you make it larger?
Yeah, I'll make it larger, yep.
Yeah, it's just tiny.
Yep.
There you go.
Is that better?
Mhm.
Okay,
Mhm.
so I'm gonna have to scroll on my screen so I'm not on the same page. Okay, so it's a lot of legalese. There's the notice of proposed suspension. It's procedural language. When working with students, there around possible disciplinary consequences, there is emergency removal, which allows a school to have a child be taken out of the building for up to 2 days because their continued presence in the school is a danger to themselves or other people in the building or significantly disruptive to the school environment. A short-term suspension and a long-term suspension. When a student is removed under an emergency removal, the school must immediately turn to the due process language of a long-term suspension, even if the possible consequence for the student's behavior is not a long-term suspension. The long-term suspension language is that due process has more steps. It requires more process on the part of the administrator. And then there's the due process language doesn't apply when the student is related to something that there's a weapon involved or a controlled substance, or if there's a felony, a possible felony charge involved. The due process described above does not come into play. And that's under MGL Chapter 71, Section 37H and 37H and a half. The new language is related to Chapter 71, Section 37H and 3/4. And again, I'm sorry I didn't send this out earlier. And this really isn't a question of school committee, like you're debating policy. This is our handbook needs to have the correct legal language in it. And I need the school committee to approve that.
So I will make a motion to accept the updated process for due process of suspensions in accordance with Mass General Law for the student handbooks.
I have a question. Why didn't we get this earlier?
Because
Excuse me, do we want to do a second and then we can have discussion?
I will second it.
Thanks.
Sylvia, that's a great question, and it would be far preferable for you to have received it earlier. It's a straight up matter of workload and time sensitivity. So my time for the past week has been focused heavily on supporting principals with hiring and getting ready for the opening of school. So this has been on my docket for quite some time, and I had hoped to have it done a while ago. It's simply a time crunch. That's the reason.
Go ahead, Karen.
I'm just curious of whether this new language is in our big thick book that we just received of updated Mass General laws for school committees.
No, I've not seen it in there. This is far more procedural than policy.
Well, the Mass General laws would.
Oh, in that book, I thought
In
you.
that
I'm
book.
sorry.
No,
I'm sorry.
no.
Yeah, that should be in it.
Okay, good. So we can reference that if we need.
Yep.
to. Okay, thank you.
Any further questions?
I guess I have a question about the process also. So you want to get this into the handbook as soon as possible so the handbooks can be distributed to the
Yes.
children within
Yes.
the next couple of weeks?
We're hoping that handbooks go out electronically this week. And, you know, if the school committee would prefer more time, then what we would do is we would publish the handbooks as they are and republish later in the fall. And we would send an electronic form asking families to confirm that they have seen the new version of the handbook. That could be an option.
I'm more comfortable doing that.
So I think we can call for a vote I'm just suggesting right now, and then those of us who are in support of the motion moving forward would put this written legal jargon, no other word, that is how it's written, into the student handbook, and then a no vote would postpone this.
Yeah, that sounds right. We have a motion and a second on the floor. So if we proceed with the vote, a yes would approve moving forward to include this language. A no vote would ask for more time or reconsideration. Any further discussion? Okay. So let's start the voting. Jennifer?
Jennifer Coffin, yes.
Sylvia?
Sylvia Cummings, no.
Okay. Melissa?
Melissa Gary, yes.
Michelle?
Michelle Geruso abstain.
Okay. Gretchen?
Gretchen Kelton, yes.
Karen?
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Stephen?
Stephen Martin, yes.
And Raina Dastu, yes. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yes, 1 no, and 1 abstain. So
1,
that
2, 3,
motion.
4, 5, 6. I think you have.
But we have 6 yeses and we have 1 abstain and 1 no.
Oh, okay. Yep, I miscounted. So 6. All right. So that motion passes.
Thank you.
So great. All right. Are there other changes that we need to consider at this time for the handbooks? Oh, you're
I will
muted.
not bring any. I will wait to propose any other changes.
Okay, great. All right. So moving on. So I guess now I will entertain a motion. So our next I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session. Oh, and I just closed my. Sorry. Let me pull up the. Okay, there we go. So motion to go into executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with the Teachers Association if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the public body. We will return to open session for voting.
I'll move what Raina just proposed.
I'll
Thank you.
second.
And Melissa. All right, thank you. All right, so at this time, we'll invite, I guess we need to vote first. And then we would ask anyone who's not on the committee, who's not invited into this session, to sign off. And BNC TV will stay, but AV will be silenced. Jennifer?
Jennifer Coffin, yes.
Okay. Sylvia?
Sylvia Cummings, yes.
Melissa?
Melissa Gary, yes.
Michelle?
Michelle Drew, so yes.
Gretchen?
Gretchen Kelton, yes.
Karen?
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Stephen?
Stephen Martin, yes.
And Raina Dasta, yes. And we'll be inviting Anne, Patricia, All right, so we are back into an open session. So I guess I will entertain a motion to approve the MOU. Do we have the wording for the MOU? Oh, Patricia, you're muted again.
We don't put the motion on an actual MOA or MOU, so it might be to approve the MOA with the PVREA for PVRS math teachers for this school year.
So move.
Second.
Okay, great. Any further discussion? Seeing none, let's start the voting. Jennifer?
Jennifer Coffin, yes.
Sylvia?
Sylvia Cummings, yes.
Melissa?
Melissa Gary, yes.
Michelle?
Michelle Geruso, yes.
Gretchen?
Gretchen Kelton, yes.
Karen?
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Stephen?
Stephen Martin, yes.
And Raina Dasta, yes. So that passes unanimously. And thank you, Claire,
Thank you.
for helping this process and for
We're
the
having
challenge
a really
taken
good
on.
time. I have
Good.
to say, I had 2 days of, just planning just our we call ourselves the math department now. So, and 2 days of really intense planning, figuring out where we are, what we're going to do. It's going to be good.
Great.
It's going to be good.
Good.
It is.
Yeah.
Very
Claire, I just want to
Thank
say,
you.
yeah,
Thank
so
you.
nice to hear you. So nice to hear you on the in the
Yeah.
meeting in general and hear this. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
pass
it
on
is.
our thanks to the others too.
I
Okay.
will. We'll
Thank
be
you.
meeting, regularly, and yeah, we're happy. We're all on board, and it's gonna be good. Brilliant idea.
Keep us posted.
Wonderful.
Let us know.
Okay.
Let us know what you
Yep.
need.
Oh,
Let us know
don't
how we
you
can
worry.
support you. Let us know how we can support you. We really appreciate that.
Yeah, and we appreciate you as well. So, thank you for this. And like I said, we consider ourselves a math department, and we're going to move forward, and it's going to be a good year for everyone.
Great.
We're excited.
Stepping up.
So
That
thank you.
positivity
Thank you,
sounds
yeah.
wonderful.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's exciting. So
It is
that's great.
exciting. It's fun and it's different.
Yeah.
Well, I did it like 15 years ago, so I shouldn't have just said that publicly anyway. So all right, never mind.
It's a new and different challenge. It's
Yeah.
dusting
Right.
off some of those old skills. But yeah, I one of the things I'll say publicly as well, that I really glad to see seasoned teachers stepping into this. I think that the skill set that you have just as seasoned teachers is going to really be a benefit, and the fact that you're all excited about teaching math, I think is wonderful. So
Thank you.
the kids are really gonna get a lot out of that. So
We all are.
yeah.
Yeah, we all will. It'll be good.
And
It's gonna be good.
Gretchen, you had something to say?
Yes. I'm going to try to go on video. I just wanted to echo the gratitude, Claire, to you and the other teachers who are stepping up to do this. And your excitement is very exciting for me. And also, I want to express my gratitude to Patricia and Jordan and the administrators and all of the other teachers. I know with certainty that Patricia is working more hours right now than there are in the day. And so you're doing amazing. And thank you.
Thank you, Gretchen. Happy to do this and just so happy that the teachers are excited about this. This is a win for everybody.
Yay.
Okay. Raina, you're on mute.
Thank you. Thank you for everybody. We do have one item of some urgent business that was unanticipated until today. So, Patricia, do you want to, or Patricia?
Jordan's
or
going to take this.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
I will take this away. Thank you, Raina. As Raina mentioned, it's urgent business really related to improving school safety. We had the 8/17 meeting voted to pass the window film contracts. And thereafter, we noticed, well, I shouldn't say we, Cami noticed that there was a typo in the contract, and one of the contracts said that the price of the contract was based on prevailing wage, and one mentioned not based on prevailing wage. And so now we've worked with the company to correct that. So now, in all reference to prevailing wage, the contract is based on prevailing wage. No amounts have changed, but that's a positive development in the sense that we know that the price isn't going to change when we provide the prevailing wage sheet to the contractor. So not bad news in any way, but we wanted to make sure that we gave the school committee an opportunity to know of the change and to vote again on the contracts and approve them with the corrected language in the contracts, because we know we need additional approval now that the contract's changed. Any questions about this?
Thanks for the email heads up earlier today. That was helpful. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Yep.
That was Patricia's idea, so we worked in tandem to get that one out. So
Yeah, appreciate it. So great. So would someone like to make the motion?
I
Sure.
will make the motion. I move that we approve the amended contract for window film installation to reflect a change to prevailing wage, which was mistakenly incorrect the first time.
I'll second that.
Great. Thanks, Jennifer. All right. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we can start voting. Jennifer,
Jennifer Coffin, yes.
Sylvia,
Yes, so Sylvia Cummings, yes.
Melissa,
Melissa Gary, yes.
Michelle,
Michelle Drew, so yes.
Gretchen,
Gretchen Kelton, yes.
Karen,
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Stephen,
Stephen Martin, yes.
and Raina Dastu, yes. So that passes unanimously. Yeah, great. And I don't believe there's any other business. Our next scheduled meeting is September 14th at 6 p.m. And then I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right.
Second.
Sounds good. And Jennifer,
Jennifer Coffin, yes.
Sylvia,
Sylvia Cummings, yes.
and Melissa,
Melissa Gary, yes.
Michelle,
Michelle Drew, so yes.
and Gretchen,
Gretchen Kelton, yes.
and Karen,
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Stephen,
Stephen Martin, yes.
and Raina Dastu, yes. So thank you, everyone. This was not as brief as we had anticipated, but we got a lot done. So,
Thank you.
Oh, here's
Thank
to
you,
a good
everyone.
opening of the school year.
yeah,
Good luck.
that's exciting. Students back tomorrow. Very exciting.
Yeah,
Wow.
thank you.
It is very exciting, actually.